In the past few years, there have been a ton of blockbuster trades that have happened in the NFL. No one really goes back and regrades these trades, and look how the trade went for both teams in the deal. So that's what I'm doing on today's video, because there are a ton of lopsided trades and a ton of trades that it was just obvious that one team won. I mean, just look at that AJ Brown trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. One team won that trade. You guys know right now, it was not the Tennessee Titans. But before I get into the video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. And comment, who do you want your team to trade for this offseason? Is there a certain player that you want to see on your team, or just an overall need that your team needs? Let me know in the comments, and let's get straight into it. You know what, to start off the video, we're gonna talk about the AJ Brown Philadelphia Eagle and Tennessee Titan trade, because I talked about it in the beginning, so why not just break it down right away? So going all the way back to the 2022 NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles were in desperate need of a wide receiver. They drafted Devonta Smith last year, but they still needed some playmakers for Jalen Hurts, and at the time AJ Brown was having some contract problems with the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee front office didn't want to pay him top receiver money. So on draft night, Howie Roseman started cooking a trade. So the Eagles went ahead and got AJ Brown in the trade, and the Eagles just gave the Titans their first round pick. They were like, go ahead, take him. We want this elite receiver in AJ Brown, and they also threw a third in there. And with that first round pick, the Tennessee Titans went ahead and selected Treylon Burks. And let's just say, so far, it's looking like an absolute fleece for Howie Roseman. Treylon Burks so far in his career only has 49 receptions, 665 yards, and 1 touchdown, but I can't say it's 100% his fault that his stats have been lackluster. Treylon this year and last year, he's been facing injuries. Last year it was some turf toe and a concussion injury. This year he was also facing some injuries, and he's also faced some adversity at the quarterback position. Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, there's been all over the place. And Tennessee in general really just isn't that good of a football team anymore. They have definitely fallen off. So the trade so far for the Titans hasn't really been looking good, but for the Eagles though, like I've been saying, man, AJ Brown in his first year with the Eagles, well, he had 88 receptions, 1,496 yards, and 11 touchdowns receiving. And in his second year, he had 106 receptions, 1,456 yards receiving, and 7 touchdowns. As we can clearly see, guys, the Philadelphia Eagles won this trade. They got an elite wide receiver in AJ Brown, and it's really helped Jalen Hurts break out. For trade grades, though, I'm giving the Philadelphia Eagles an A. Like I said, they made their franchise quarterback break out, and they have an elite receiver, and I'm giving the Tennessee Titans a D. The Tennessee Titans drafted a wide receiver that's been underwhelming so far, and he has not been able to go ahead and replace that AJ Brown role in Tennessee. Well, guys, it's time to go ahead and talk about the Deshaun Watson trade, because honestly, there's one clear winner in this trade as well, and it's kind of obvious. But let's take you guys back all the way back when Deshaun Watson requested a trade out of the Houston Texans after they were so bad, and he didn't like what the management was doing at head coach in the GM position, and he just wanted to be out of the organization. And then shortly after that, a whole bunch of women would come out and press charges against him, and a whole bunch of stuff would happen with that. So basically Deshaun Watson didn't play like 2 whole years of football basically. But while that was happening, he still got traded out of Houston. There was a team in Ohio, being the Cleveland Browns, that was also kind of facing some quarterback adversity. Now, in my opinion, I still don't think they should have ever traded Baker Mayfield. He had one down year. Just because he was injured everywhere and he wanted to go out there and he wanted to play, even though he was injured. And I truly believe if he wasn't injured, he still would have been good. But in my opinion, the Cleveland Browns made a horrible decision by going ahead and trading for Deshaun Watson. Keep in mind, Baker had one bad year. They could have waited another year, but nope. They wanted to go ahead and get fancy with it. And in my opinion, it shouldn't have happened. Here's the list right here of all the players they've been able to go ahead and get because of the Deshaun Watson trade. Now, of course, not all of them are straight picks from that position. They went ahead and made some trades, but yeah. The Houston Texans got Will Anderson, Tank Dell, and a ton of dogs from this Deshaun Watson trade. They clearly won it. And the Cleveland Browns got Deshaun Watson, and if you look at his stats, he's been very subpar. Of course, he was suspended for 11 games in his first season and looked pretty rusty. And then this year, he had a few decent games, but he still really didn't look that good. Definitely a shell of himself. Definitely did not look like he was in Houston form. And then, of course, in the end of October, he would go ahead and suffer a shoulder injury, so he hasn't even played a game since October. Now, I know some people in the comments might come after me, say the Browns still made playoffs. Yeah, they made the playoffs because Joe Flacco and that Cleveland team is good, not because of Deshaun Watson. But when it comes to grading this deal is very one-sided. I'm giving the Houston Texans an A-. I mean, just look at all these players that they got off of that trade. Just all around amazing surprising things. I'm giving the Cleveland Browns a D. We haven't seen a fully healthy season of Deshaun Watson and really what he's been able to do, and he's not looking like he's going to go ahead and return to that Houston form. And look how much they had to give up for an unknown piece in their offense right now, because that was a ton. But yeah, the Houston Texans clearly won the Deshaun Watson trade as of right now. Now next up, we got a trade that my favorite NFL team did. Now call me biased, but my favorite team won this trade, the Roquan Smith deal. Now let's go all the way back a couple years ago when Roquan Smith was still on the Chicago Bears. Now the Baltimore Ravens, you know how much they love defensive playmakers, and they needed a linebacker at the time. And Roquan Smith, he was doing some great things in Chicago, and honestly, he was being wasted there because the Bears were not making the playoffs and they were not good at the time. But like I said, the Chicago Bears, they weren't good at the time. So the GM at the time is going to unload all these old contracts that he had, and they're just trying to get a ton of assets so they can go ahead and draft a ton of players. And Roquan Smith was one of those players. They had a decision that they had to make if they want to keep Roquan on the team and go ahead and pay him, or if they want to go ahead and trade him and get some assets for him. And they went ahead and sure did that. They traded him to the Baltimore Ravens for a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick. And that was it. I know the Chicago Bears are trying to get rid of some contracts, but man, just a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick for one of the best linebackers in the league, yeah, I'll take that deal. Now the Chicago Bears will go ahead and draft a defensive tackle with that pick and another linebacker. And also in the deal, I forgot to mention, they did get another linebacker being AJ Clem, but none of these guys in the deal are even on Roquan Smith's level. You guys already know what I'm going to do for the grades of this trade, because like I said, this was kind of another fleece, but I know what the Bears are trying to do, so it wasn't horrible. But the Baltimore Ravens, they're getting an A for this trade, a 2nd round pick, a 5th round pick, and an outside linebacker for one of the best in the league at the linebacker position. And the Chicago Bears, I'm giving them a C-. So because the trade wasn't really that good on the Chicago Bears standards, but they were trying to get rid of contracts and they didn't want to pay people, so I guess they kind of win in that sort of way, but also not really, because I feel like they could have gotten more for Roquan. All right, it's time to talk about the deal that happened last year with DJ Moore and the #1 overall pick. So let's take a look back at last year. So of course the Chicago Bears, they had the worst record in the NFL, and they ended up having the 1st overall pick in the draft, but they already had a quarterback. They had Justin Fields, and throughout the year he showed a lot of signs that he could be the franchise quarterback in Chicago. If you look at some of his stats from some of them games, especially towards the end of the year, he was going nuclear. So the Bears are like, we don't need a quarterback in this draft, and this draft is very quarterback heavy. So they were like, we're gonna go ahead and trade this big to a quarterback needy team. And the Carolina Panthers, well, they needed a quarterback. They just went ahead and cleaned house. They fired Matt Rule, traded Christian McCaffrey, and things were not looking good at the quarterback position, and they needed someone. So you know what they did? The Panthers had the 9th pick, and they went ahead and made a deal with Chicago. Chicago Bears went ahead and got DJ Moore out of the deal, which was all around huge. Like getting a receiver, and they desperately needed one, and especially a receiver like DJ Moore, a good reliable one, that was huge. They went ahead and got a 1st round pick in 2024, which the funny thing is that is the 1st overall pick this year again. A 2025 2nd round pick, another 1st round pick, which of course became the 9th pick because they did a pick swap, and then they got a 2023 2nd round pick, so they got Carolina's 2nd round pick from last year. And with all this, the Carolina Panthers went ahead and took Bryce Young with the #1 overall pick. Now Bryce Young did not have the brightest rookie year of all time, but you know what, I was kind of hard on Bryce's rookie year, but then I really started looking at it. Frank Reich wasn't really a good head coach in Carolina, and the offense was very lackluster, and the offensive weapons that Bryce had in the O-line, it was horrible. If you look at Bryce Young's receivers he had in his rookie year, yeah, they were not good. I think that's another reason why Bryce didn't have the greatest rookie year ever. It's just because of the receivers, the offensive line, the offensive coaching, nothing in Carolina that was really good, and that's why Bryce had a subpar rookie year. I still really truly believe that Bryce Young can be a good NFL quarterback. People are going to go ahead and say he's too short and stuff like that, but I still believe in him. And with that, I'm giving the Chicago Bears an A- because so far this trade's looking like a pretty good trade for them, landing DJ Moore and a ton of picks, and they might go ahead and select Caleb Williams this year. And for the Carolina Panthers, I'm giving it a D. They went ahead and lost DJ Moore, which I feel like if Bryce Young would have had DJ Moore in his rookie year, things would have been a little bit different, but they still went ahead and drafted a franchise quarterback, which I still believe that can be good. That was only his rookie year. We've only seen 1 year, so I can't be too harsh on the deal yet, but losing DJ Moore in this deal was definitely a blower for them. All right, let's talk about the deal that happened last spring concerning Jalen Ramsey and the Miami Dolphins, because the Dolphins kind of did some fleecing here as well, but also not really. So the Dolphins were in desperate need needed a playmaker in that secondary position. Xavier Howard really wasn't playing the same as he once was, and they just needed a playmaker on that defensive secondary, and they went ahead and traded for Jalen Ramsey. Now, the LA Rams were coming off a losing season, and they were all around just in cap hell. They gave everyone a ton of money to go ahead. They went all in for that Super Bowl. They won it, and now they were in total cap hell, and they had to do something about it. A random tight end named Hunter Long that they really don't use, and went ahead and got a third-round pick that turned into Brian Young, the defensive end. So yeah, there ain't really much to talk about this deal, but for this trade, I'm giving the Miami Dolphins an A. They got one of the best corners in the NFL. I know he missed some games this year because he was injured, but still, he's one of the best corners in the NFL, and you didn't give up much. But I will say, I feel like that $17 million contract is gonna come back to haunt them, especially as soon as we get to the offseason. They have to be under the cap limit. And then I'm actually going to give this trade a C for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, yes, they probably could have got more in return for Jalen Ramsey, but hear me out. They were in cap hell. They did not have a choice. They had to go ahead and make some trades to get under the cap. They didn't have a choice. I'm giving the trade a C just because of that, just because they didn't really have a choice, and they went ahead and they just had to give up whatever they could to go ahead and get out of cap hell. So let's talk about this Amari Cooper trade that happened a few years ago. So this is basically what happened. The Dallas Cowboys gave Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns, and you know what the Browns said? In return, we're just gonna give you a 5th round and a 6th round pick, and that's how the deal went. Now, in my opinion, Amari Cooper is worth more than a 5th round and a 6th round pick, but yeah, Cleveland got a good wide receiver out of this trade. I'm giving the Cleveland Browns an A. They got a great wide receiver and only gave up a 5th round pick and a 6th round pick, and I'm giving the Dallas Cowboys a D. I'm gonna say it just like Skip Bayless says it. They definitely could have got way more. I know they got CD Lamb now, but they definitely could have got way more out of this deal. You know what, guys? I'm sick and tired of talking about all these one-sided trades. You know what we're gonna do to end off the video? We're gonna talk about an even trade, the definition of one, the Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford trade. So all the way back in the year of 2020 and 2021, Jared Goff was just falling off as the quarterback of the LA Rams. He was once an MVP candidate. He went to the Super Bowl. He was just falling off, and him and Sean McVay were getting into it, and it was just time for a change for Jared Goff. And Matthew Stafford, man, all those years in Detroit, he's an all-around warrior for being in Detroit that long. Finally wanted to change. He's like, you know what, the Lions, you know, I'm getting up there in age. I want to go ahead and win something for once in my life. And Stafford was like, yeah, I need to go ahead and win something. Lions management was like, you know what, we'll do you right. So they went ahead and traded QBs. The Lions said, here you go. You can have Matthew Stafford, and you guys can have Jared Goff. And that's how the deal went. Now, in hindsight, the Detroit Lions also got a ton of first-round picks, which is also very important in this trade. But, you know, the LA Rams would go ahead and win the Super Bowl the next year. First year Matthew Stafford's there. They go ahead and win the Super Bowl. Stafford gets his Super Bowl in LA. They basically sell their whole franchise and their whole soul. And meanwhile, the Detroit Lions, they're not doing too good. They're having losing seasons, and just things are not looking good. They're not winning games. But you know what? Took them a couple years with them first-round picks they got. They drafted some guys, and you know what they did with them guys? They put all the pieces together. The Detroit Lions went to the NFC Championship game, and Jared Goff was balling out, and this Lions team is pretty good now. Yeah, you know what I have to say about this trade? It's an A+ for both teams. This is a win-win trade. You won a Super Bowl on one side, and the other side, you go to the NFC Championship game. This team has been having a drought for so long, and they finally go to an NFC Championship game. This is the definition of a perfect trade in the NFL, in my opinion. And you know what, guys? That's gonna be the video right there. I'm gonna leave it off on a high note. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe. It'd be very much appreciated. Comment, what do you guys think a fair trade in the NFL is? And I will see you guys in the next video.